Now that Blood Origin has been out for a few days, Netflix must really be feeling the stress of releasing a show that is despised by everyone. The critic scores are rotten, the user scores are abysmal, and it doesn't look like that will change anytime soon because now it has the worst audience scores for Netflix of all time. And of course, the media is already calling us ists for not liking it. I have a bunch of different things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So let's start off with this Forbes article and the audience scores because it says Blood Origin has Netflix's worst audience scores of all time. I truly don't know what they were thinking with this show. I mean, it is awful. There is nothing good about this series, and I usually try to find the positives in everything that I watch, even if I think the overall product is bad, but there's nothing here. The acting is bad, the writing is awful, the sets are awful, the costumes aren't great. There's nothing here to appreciate or to praise. It says, what once seemed like it could be Netflix's answer to Game of Thrones seems like it's in serious trouble. The Witcher has lost Henry Cavill as its star after next season, and its first attempt at trying to expand its universe with a new live-action show seems to be going disastrously. Yes, this was supposed to be Netflix's answer to Game of Thrones, but they hired the worst people possible for this project. The difference between these shows is that with Game of Thrones, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, or Dumb and Dumber, they had several seasons of source material to work with. They had several books, and that is when the show was great. It's when they ran out of source material that the show became a nightmare. But with The Witcher, the show has had problems even from, the first season, first episode. The problem is that they didn't follow the source material as closely as they could have, and they didn't take the source material and run with it and try to figure out what made it work and what made it so popular. They just kind of had The Witcher, and then they tried to branch off in their own direction, and it went terribly for them. I've said this before, but the base Witcher or Mothership show is good, but it does have problems. It does stray away from source material. And with this show, I mean, they have just gone in a completely crazy direction that clearly nobody supports. It says, the good news first is that Blood Origin is currently the #1 show on Netflix at the time of this article being written, but now when I am making this video a day after this article has released, it has fallen to the 4th spot on Netflix, so it didn't even hold that #1 spot for 3 days. It says, though, the bad news is that what people are actually watching may make them wish they hadn't bothered. Right now, in addition to having pretty poor critic scores, Blood Origin has literally the worst audience scores of a major Netflix original I have ever seen, and honestly, it deserves it. Yes, I am someone who is very upset with the fact that Henry Cavill is gone from The Witcher, but I still wanted to give this a chance because it's a different show, a different cast, different timeline, and they just did like the worst possible job they could have. But of course, instead of just saying it's okay that people dislike the show, not everybody is going to love it, and yes, there are people who are criticizing it, the media has decided to call us all ists for not liking this show. So as you can see, this is a gamer article. The Witcher Blood Origin breaks record for Netflix's worst audience score, and they do talk about how it's not doing great review-wise, but they also go on to say, but while it's #1 on Netflix, even though it's not anymore. The people watching it don't seem to be enjoying it. However, digging into many of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and other sites, a common thread pops up: anger at diversity, with many people upset at the use of sign language, meaning that many of these reviews come from racist, sexist, and ableist standpoints. Now, I have done a couple of videos on Blood Origin at this point, and I have scrolled through many reviews that people are leaving, and I have seen very few people pointing out these things. First of all, I understand the sign language argument because they're using American Sign Language, and of course America doesn't exist in the show, and people are saying that they could have used something like British Sign Language because it's used in the UK, or even SSE, which is sign-supported English, but they didn't think about that when casting, it seems like. But that, of course, isn't the only criticism with this show either. But there are people who are pointing out that, yes, they decided to race swap characters, and we know from the base show they have, race swapped a lot of the elves, and that is something that people are pointing out, but that's not necessarily anger at the fact that there's diversity. It's anger at the fact that they are not following the source material and the original creator's vision for this world. But of course, they just want to call us racist, sexist, ableist, and just say we're terrible people because they don't want to take our criticisms seriously. They also say one look at Twitter and several of these same sentiments can be found. Now, they talk about all of this anger and digging into many of the reviews. A common thread pops up. They provide absolutely no examples of this because they didn't want to take the time to actually find them. They just want to say, well, there's all these disgusting people making disgusting comments, but they can't provide any evidence of that because it really doesn't exist. They're saying that it's being review bombed by Henry Cavill fans and, again, racists, and review bombing is typically done in protest of a product, and while, yes, there are people who are upset over Henry Cavill leaving the franchise, and those people are negatively reviewing it, hoping to bring down this show's score, most of the reviews are from people who are simply saying the product is bad because it is. It's one of the worst shows of the year, but of course the media will spin it, saying it's being review bombed by salty Cavill fans, even though, again, only a small percent of user reviews are even mentioning him. These people can't accept the fact that this product is just terrible and people hate it, but they want to defend Netflix, they want to defend race swaps, they want to defend all of these things so that these large companies don't cut off their access to early scoops and seeing content early. These hacks can't actually make it in the industries they want to be in. They wish that they were political commentators, and this is the closest they're going to get to that. So, of course, they're not actually going to listen to the people who read their website. They're going to put out these crazy opinions and these hit pieces just to get hate clicks. But, as you can see, the scores have actually changed a little bit. They've actually gone up by 1%. As you can see, judging by the critics, all critics is at 33, but the top critic is at a measly 20, but the average audience score has gone up to 10%. It had dropped all the way down to 7% for a few hours, but it was sitting pretty steadily at an 8%, and now it's at a 10%. People are accusing Netflix of getting reviews deleted. I personally haven't seen any evidence of that, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me. But I do think the reason why it's gone up by a couple of percent is because there are more people who are leaving, 4 stars and 5 stars, basically saying that people are just salty and people need to get over it and just accept that this show exists. So I'm trying to counter the negative reviews, which of course really isn't working, but it has gone up by a couple of percent. But as you can see, the media is calling us ists and phobes just because we don't like this series, because we have problems with it. And again, the number one problem I have with the show is that it doesn't follow the source material. But Blood Origin is a major disaster for Netflix. I'm sure I'll be talking about it again in the near future because there's been a lot of news releasing about it, but for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.